He's gonna be a little bit late. Yeah, asked me to start it.
She says
Okay.
it's gonna be a few minutes late.
We're gonna resume our hearings for the budget. And first up, we have the Purdue Extension Office.
Hello, I'm Christy Whitaker with Purdue Extension. Excuse my appearance, we're working out of setting up for the Vigo County Fair right now, so we've been busy. We checked in about 1,000 projects last night, and we got about 1,000 more to go at 5 o'clock, so, yeah. I don't have a lot of changes this year that I'm asking for, but I always like to come and have a few minutes with you guys. I think our department's set up a little bit different with the arrangement with Purdue, so I always want to be available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about any changes that you've made in your budget request?
Sure, the first one is contractual services. That's a 5% increase. That's the amount set through the federal arrangement for land-grant universities and the state auditor's office. They set the amount that we request for that each year, and it covers a portion of our salaries and services that we provide for the county. And then the second one is wearing apparel. We've always taken that, or used to take that line item out of our fair expenses. Purdue requires us to wear these polo shirts during the fair, so we're identifiable by youth. So we purchase one every year to span the 12 days that we wear those. And we used to take that out of fair expenses, but now it needs to be a separate line item, I understand, for wearing apparel, so I've transferred that. So it's actually not an increase, it's just in a different spot. And then the last one was mileage. And to be honest, I wasn't sure how much to increase mileage with the increase that we've had. Pre-COVID, we were using a lot of mileage. We traveled a lot since COVID, and I don't know that we'll ever get back to the miles that we were driving before, because we've done so much more virtual and continue to do some virtual teaching in the future as well, but we still will be traveling and doing probably, I'm guessing, 70% of what we were before, so that's what I based that increase on, to cover that increase from going from the 40 cents to the 0.585. So those were really the only changes that I have that I'm requesting. We've received lots of grants this year to help, and we continue to pursue those in the future as well. The grant that I got to cover the 3 high school programs, I got $10,000 from the Oakley Foundation, which was super. Then we've got a couple federal grants that our county is a part of that are across the state. So our portion for some of those ranges between $20,000 and $50,000, and then we're part of a $60,000 grant, a national grant as well. So, because some considerable funding coming into our county through that.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I had to turn my mic on. Thank you.
yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Quick.
Council?
And it,
Uh-huh.
I'm dead. My bad. Yeah, I thought I just changed those. But salary-wise, there's a payroll salary, about 20, a little under 20,000. Is that just making up for any kind of like current trends, or what's?
That was
to it?
added,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
It just seemed, okay, got it. It
Yeah.
just kind of jumped out at me, so.
Sure. I didn't, I haven't
Yeah,
touched
you're
any
fine.
of that, but
Okay,
yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's good.
Okay, thank you very much. Unless you have anything else you want to tell us?
No, I have impact reports. I can't remember, Calissa, did I email those out? Our Purdue impact reports that I could leave? Okay, that you've already got those then.
Okay.
Couple weeks. I can leave them with, yeah, I've got some of those printed. I can leave.
Sure. And I appreciate you putting your 5-year plan in here too. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions about our budget or any services we provide, or?
Nope. Good luck with your fair projects.
Thank you. We would love to see you guys come down. We have 2,200 exhibits registered for our 4-Hers, and that doesn't include what we're doing for the public open class and what our master gardeners do during the fair, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it will be, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks
It
so
always
much.
is. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your support.
Oh, I'm
Was
sorry.
I just, can you give us a little education for, maybe for Brenda and I, or for Maria and I know, but maybe for Brenda as well, how this works, because out of the 92 counties, there's only like 2 counties that the county doesn't own the fair.
Actually, I think there's a
Association.
handful that the county doesn't
Okay.
own.
So
but-
what's the relationship with Purdue and the Wabash Valley Fair Association? I don't understand all that. I mean, can you give us a little bit what you know about it?
Yeah, it's an awesome relationship. So they're
Okay.
privately owned. I'm
Yeah.
an appointed seat on the board of
Okay.
the Wabash Valley Fair Association. The Purdue Extension Director always has an appointed seat. Our 4-H volunteers have a long history of raising funds and making the barns and the different livestock options really nice at the fair. We invest a lot of funding in that, as does the county, as part of my line item budget too. There's a small amount that the county provides for us to maintain those barns and stuff as well. But the history goes way back. Their goal is to provide agriculture support and education, and that's our goal as well. So we've been associated with the Wabash Valley Fair Association since its inception. We do a lot of our programming there. We utilize all the buildings, everything on the grounds at no charge. And they maintain all of that space, provide utilities and access to all those buildings for us and our 4-Hers and our volunteers. So it's an incredible relationship. It really is. Unlike a lot of, the others are county. That's just a different relationship. They don't have to support us, and they do support us. So it's amazing.
And I don't know, I think that I didn't know the relationship before, and then getting on here, trying to understand the fundings
Yeah.
and what our responsibilities are and what the association's responsibilities are, just trying to understand it, that's all.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question.
Thank you.
You said no charge, like, for you guys, other than like maybe helping them with stuff and,
Yeah, we
Volunteering.
volunteer at some of their events as well, just for good support. I believe in everything they do down there to support agriculture education as well and support that industry. Mhm.
thanks.
I'm sure your being there is an economic benefit,
Yeah.
big time. to
Oh,
the
yeah,
county, for
yeah,
sure.
sure. For the contractual services amount? Yes, that's the amount determined at the federal government level, and then the state has a match for that. It's the Smith-Lever Act and then the Hatch Act. And then the state auditor's office sets the amount for every county in Indiana and how many educators are provided. And it's based, I guess, on our tax base, population, urban to rural, land use, those kind of things go into the equation. And then what we get for that, you guys get, there's 5 of us educators appointed full-time for Vigo County, and then they provide 2 nutrition education support people that work out of our office. They're in all of our schools and all of the group homes and with the Housing Authority doing nutrition education. They're funded through the SNAP dollar. People who use their food stamp SNAP dollars, that's how they're funded through our office. And then we also get a community wellness coordinator with that as well, based out of our office, who works in 3 counties to provide more policy and system changes. And then the 5 of us, we have our ag and natural resources educator who works with all the farming industry and getting works with the farmers market and getting new businesses in farming and supporting that whole industry. Then we have our health and human sciences educator who works with every health initiative in the county. We do lots of education that supports families, finances, fitness, and nutrition are their 4 base areas, and they partner with everybody. Then myself, I'm a community development educator, so I teach leadership classes. I do digital ready programming. I teach grant writing. My grant writing class I do every other year here, and then I also offer it in the surrounding counties to support regional grant development to really get some funding in in our region for people writing grants. That's been super successful. And then I'm leaving out our 4-H educators. We have 2 full-time 4-H educators that manage over 1,000 youth in our program and about 100 volunteers that help run that program. It's incredible.
Are the FFA programs also associated with the school FFA programs? Are they associated like the
They
like
are
the
not,
4-H?
but we work closely with all of them and help them get their education with like the livestock judging competitions and different, we partner closely with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I mentioned this last year, but I'll tell you again. I love the recipes that come in the newsletter. I've tried several of them, and it's really good.
Good, fantastic. It's great news. We do tons of cooking demonstrations and trying to get people to be really healthy in our community. It's a need. It's definitely a need with heart disease and obesity rates, so,
For sure.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I did.
Okay, that's all I wanted, thanks. Huh? It is there, thank you.
We're ready for the prosecutor.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Okay.
A little bit of a break in the 100-degree weather we got going on here, so that's nice. Not a lot of changes from the prosecutor's office this year, but, so I just wanted to kind of make myself available to answer any questions. At the end of each of the requests, I think I tried to put a typed-in description of any changes that we were making, or that we were requesting in those forms. So I don't know if there are any specific questions, or if you'd like for me to just kind of go through them one by one, since we have multiples.
Okay.
Brenda, can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? From what I remember, and I might be thinking wrong, didn't we have to do, I saw that you raised up return of fugitives, didn't we have to do like a appropriations for that at
We
some
did.
point?
We
So you're
did.
just trying to preempt, like, yeah.
That is correct, and that's, just as a reminder, one of the things that I've done regularly throughout the years, both for return of fugitives as well as any extra funding for trials and investigations. I've made the commitment that I'm not going to transfer that into any other line item. So the only way that that extra funding would be utilized is if we have that expense in that specific area. I'm not going to transfer it over into office supplies or something, some other category and spend $3,000 there or anything like that. Absolutely will not happen.
Okay, I was thinking that we had to do that anyway,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Have anything, Council Thacker?
Just, is it actual law books or is it online, or is it electronic versions that you get on that?
No, we actually have a set of code books that are printed up by the Indiana Prosecuting
Oh,
Attorneys
you actually
Council that
print
we
it.
give to the law enforcement officers. We order about 330 to 350 of them each year, hand out to all the law enforcement officers, to the judges. That way, everybody's got just a copy of the criminal code that they can carry around with them.
It's not a
Literally.
little more practical electronic these days, where they all have a...
It is, in some fashions, but, you know, there are times when those come in handy.
I get called old school for just looking at the books, you know, that-
I have pushed our department very heavily into electronics. However, the only problem that arises out of this, if we don't buy a certain number of code books, we don't even have the option of purchasing the electronic version that they put together for this.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
We provide them to the courts, the books and everything. Now, most of the attorneys have access to legal research like Lexis and Westlaw and things like that. So we've got access to that, but the law enforcement officers don't necessarily have access to it.
There's some factor involved with having a real book.
Well, I mean, for example, today, when I didn't have access to the internet
There you
for
go.
multiple hours while I was trying to do legal research,
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
yeah, alphabetically in the book, yeah. I put tabs. I have lots of tabs in mine. Makes it easier to find.
Yep.
I like the search feature. I'm just saying, that's it.
Yeah, if I'm copying and pasting statutes and things like that, I'm right there with you, especially on that.
Anything else? Your increase in travel expenses, just basically fuel costs, or are you anticipating additional travel expenses to bump it from
Generally,
1,005?
yeah, if you look, generally speaking, our travel expenses are related to training. And so, one, we have additional deputy prosecutors that you guys were gracious enough to give us, if we can ever fill those spots. We're still trying. But part of that was also, in drafting the budget in previous years, when our infraction deferral monies were much higher in income than what they are right now, there was a point in time not too long ago, before COVID, when we were bringing in approximately $300,000 a year into that. Well, 150 to 200,000, and we had it up to 300,000 accumulated in there. Now that, and when we were doing that, in order to take away from what we were requesting from the county, we had actually moved over a number of areas, office supplies, travel, and things like that, into that infraction deferral budget. Now that that income is dramatically reduced, I believe actually pull it up because I just did an analysis on it for Terry yesterday.
Dramatically reduced because you don't have so many people who qualify for it because they,
Because police
Multiple.
officers, because police officers look at the economic climate before they write people tickets. And so they are writing a lot more warnings now rather than actual citations, and so therefore there are fewer people that are getting involved in the infraction deferral program.
I was obviously thinking the opposite direction where people had had so many infractions that they didn't qualify for that anymore.
No, generally speaking, and we've seen this, 2009, we had a dramatic, in fact, it was such a dramatic downturn in 2009 that we ended up accidentally zeroing out that account.
Wow.
And the county had to make some adjustments to help us at that point in time, because we had a number of full salaries coming out of the infraction deferral budget at that time. So just travel expenses is just one of the things that that we wanted to move back in there. Tried to offset it with some of the other things, so.
Okay. Want to move on to child or adult protective services next, or?
Sure. Adult Protective Services, there is a request that is not specifically reflected in the numbers, and I've bolded that in the notes section. How ultimately that would need to come through the council, I don't know, but one of the things that we think is needed for that division, currently we have an individual that is a receptionist / an intake officer, and there are many of the Adult Protective Service units around the state that have gone away from having that type of a receptionist secretary position and are just using the hotline for their intake calls and that sort of thing. Our cases are, again, through the roof. And I'll say this much, we're trying to just revamp our department so that we are spending more time out in the field as opposed to dealing with phone calls and things like that. To do that, we feel like we need another investigator position. And so if you look at the request based on what our legal or our intake person secretary was making, it's a very, very minute difference overall in the salary expenses. But ultimately, as it goes hand in hand with the contract that we sign with the state, we're going to need the council's approval to make that another investigator spot as opposed to where we're currently at. If the council approves that, then we'll have to look at whether or not we can persuade the state to provide additional funding for another car for an investigator who's going to be going out in the field and some of those expenses. But we'll worry about that when we come to that bridge, we'll cross
So
that.
have you included those potential in your request? Or like
I have not,
potential for a
because we
vehicle?
don't submit anything regarding salaries or positions. That's not in the spreadsheet that we submit, so. Yeah, it's written in.
I'm sorry, what? Okay.
Rob, when they call in to Adult Protective Services,
Yes.
is it a similar format to what they do for children, where it just goes to a state like hotline? So there's no direct calls coming into Vigo County where like where you said, like a receptionist or secretary?
There are some, and again, at this point in time, we feel like it's because the state reporting system has been in place for a few years now. It's been advertised, it's been promoted, and it's got a good, strong web presence, and they are getting ready to upgrade their case management and their web system. That's all supposed to take place before the end of the year. So we feel like now is the appropriate time for us to utilize those resources to get out in the field and make sure we're doing more thorough, more prompt investigations than what we've been doing in the past.
Right, okay. I feel like in general, a lot of services were going away from, reception, secretary type positions anyways, and giving
Yes.
more responsibilities.
Yes.
Not just, a few offices.
And I'll be the first to say, I hate the automated systems. I do, but I understand the efficiency
Yeah,
of them.
being someone who calls on the other one, yeah, but I get, you know, it has its good and its bad.
Yeah. I'm sorry, where are we at on adult protective services still?
With ones.
Miscellaneous fees, $100.
Oh, because it's always been there.
Oh, it doesn't, the chart doesn't show that it was there before.
Yeah, that's not something, that's not a new one that I'm aware of.
It wasn't in there last year, or,
We transferred some money into it. Oh, okay. Well, if it's what I'm thinking of, we had, in '21, the state had allocated certain monies for emergency services to each of the departments. And so they allocated a large amount of money that we had to create a line item for. And so they've since changed course in how they're doing that to a certain extent, but that's what that line item was for. And so that nominal amount is just to keep it open in case they do something like that again.
okay.
Is the vehicle expenditure, is that, it's the same as what it was last year?
It is,
That's just, is that leasing or?
it is a
Okay.
3-year lease, and I believe we'll be in our third year of the lease during this budget, or during this 2023 budget, yes.
Actually, it's $400 less. You explained it in the.
Well, I took a little out because the amount that was originally put in there for 2021, we just copied that over to 2022, but the actual lease amount is a little bit less than that. So I just made sure we had enough in there that I thought would cover. Yeah. And just so you guys, since I know you've got 1,000 different budgets to deal with. Adult Protective Services is a contract that we have with the state. There are 18 hub counties around the state that have Adult Protective Services units. They then service surrounding counties. So we serve Vermillion, Clay, Park, Sullivan, maybe in Greene County, in addition to Vigo County. They provide through FSSA a certain amount of money to each of the hubs, and that's what all of this money is. Unfortunately, the state does not pay for everything. They never have. It's not just a situation in our county. Most of the counties are in that situation. We are the hub counties have a committee with the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council. We are in, I would say, aggressive negotiations with FSSA, trying to get an increase to the levels of funding that we actually need to meet the needs of the different communities. We were very successful the last time. There was a dramatic increase in what was budgeted by the state and ultimately what was handed out to those counties. But that only started to come closer to meeting the actual needs. So we're going to continue to push on that and see if we can get actual dollars that will cover all of the expenditures that come out of FSSA. So we are continuing to push on. Because, once again, of the infraction deferral monies, if you want to look at the infraction deferral budget. Okay. Okay, all right, sure. Don't believe there's any significant changes there.
That's not right. Okay. 0660 is right.
But nothing of a significant amount that I recall.
Okay.
And the changes that were made there were just reflective of the changes in cost for those different types of items, so. It's a printing company for all of the envelopes, for all the letters that we have to send out to the non-custodial and custodial parents. Yeah, yeah.
Karen. Karen.
That's funny.
Own that.
It's your turn in the barrel.
Increase the basket.
All right.
Had a lot of dead ones. And they say we can't get new mics either.
I could give you my mic. I mean, we all know I can talk plenty loud with
Oh,
that.
we all know. You can talk and talk loud.
Any questions about this one from anyone? All right. Infraction deferral?
Yes, as I've tried to do each and every year with the infraction deferral budget, we try to be very cautious with our estimates for income, knowing that if we have higher than expected income, we can always come back and ask for expenditure increases. This particular estimate or this particular budget request is in alignment with what our current income stream is for that program. We were somewhere between $30,000 and $34,000 for the first 6 months of this year. So again, if we want to be conservative, even if we're going to look at a $60,000 to $70,000 income budget where we're asking for a $53,000 is trying to remain conservative. There are still a few portions of salaries that come out of this account. You probably got those numbers there. When we look at our expenditures and those salaries for the first 6 months, our total account balance is down by about $3,000. So again, we're trying to keep it up. Mine and Terry's goal is to make sure that we definitely keep that up above $75,000, but we still have enough income in there to meet those few salary needs and the requests that we get from law enforcement agencies and community groups. That's, as you can see, the majority of this is from law enforcement grants, youth crime prevention grants, community grants. Those are typically things like, most recently, Club Soda reached out to us because they have 2 vehicles that broke down, so we're trying to assist them with a $1,000 grant to help get one of the vehicles back up and running. We routinely receive requests from different law enforcement agencies for equipment that they may not have the budget for. That's the law enforcement grant line item here. One of the things that we've committed for that, they'll be doing a version of National Night Out once again this year now that COVID restrictions have come down, and we've already committed to roughly $3,000 to assist in that will come out of that. So that's generally what these monies are for and why we try to make sure we're very conservative in our estimates. Generally speaking, I try to keep our expenditures right in line with whatever the income is there, so that we're still hovering between $75,000 and $100,000 in that budget.
Rob,
Yes.
the ones that went down here, the travel expenses and the registration fees, Did you move those to another account?
Those were that was the increase that I moved over into the general fund prosecutor. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Any questions from council? Councilman Thacker? Okay. Seized assets.
The seized asset budget, just, I guess, maybe just to lay some groundwork for everybody, this is money that comes in through law enforcement seizures, primarily through the Drug Task Force. Those monies then go through a court procedure to have those forfeited under the specific line of statutes that allow that. And then there's a local ordinance showing where that money then goes. All of the law enforcement agencies that contribute toward the Drug Task Force are the primary recipients of the benefits of this. The most common use of these funds is under the confidential funds section. That is primarily used for their investigations. Operating expenses are for printers, things like that. Registration fees is for and travel are for the National Drug Enforcement Conference that they try to attend each year. Contractual services, just standard contracts. This is all income driven by the seized asset program. So it's no county tax dollars that are as part of this fund. They have feast or famine in this program. And so we try not to get too high or too low with our requests. The reason that confidential funds has ballooned from where it has been in the past is twofold. One, their income has been up. But two, the costs of investigations are high. Where it used to not be uncommon for them to do a drug deal for an 8-ball, which is an eighth of an ounce, that's unheard of. Their investigations are involving ounces, quarter, half, full pounds. And because of that, the cost of doing those investigations is much higher. So, but again, if they're doing these higher value investigations, they're having some higher value seizures in the process. And currently the account is roughly $300,000, which is the highest it's been for a long time. Again, as you'll see, I'm not trying to spend all of that because that could all disappear in 1 year if we were doing that. Those seizures take, there's a couple issues with seizures. One, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Two, we don't know when that court process will be resolved. Sometimes those are resolved very quickly. Sometimes there's an attorney that will ask that those be drug out beyond the criminal case. And so it could take 12, 18 months before that case resolves. So that's why we try to keep a good solid amount in there, because we don't want to ever get to a point where we don't have money to do investigations.
And the 500 for vehicles that wasn't in there before?
You're not gonna get a very good vehicle for $500. May not get a full tank gas either.
I honestly can't tell you. I'm at a loss for why I would have put that in there at the moment.
Alrighty then.
No. Yeah, the Adult Protective Service vehicles no, they don't crisscross in any way. But thank you, that's still at a loss.
Can you give us an update? You alluded to earlier. Have you hired any of the new positions? Have you filled any of the new ones that
Well,
were created?
Yeah, I will be glad to give you an update. It's, first off, it's a problem throughout the state. There was a position advertised out of Bartholomew County, Columbus, Indiana, starting at $91,000 a year. being a misdemeanor and level 6 felony deputy prosecutor in their county. It took them somewhere, it was advertised somewhere between 4 and 6 months. Currently, well, I shouldn't say currently, but as of the last time I checked, which was within the last 30 days, South Bend is currently advertising for deputy prosecutors starting in the $80,000 to $90,000 range. And when I talked with their prosecutor 2 weeks ago, they're not getting anybody to submit their applications. Now, that being said, we received the 2 new positions to start as of January 1, so we started advertising for that as soon as that was approved, I think late October, early November. We did receive 1 application from somebody that had committed to join the office, but they were working in Marion County, and they wanted to get some of their trial experience in Marion County before coming over here. Apparently, they now like what they're doing in Marion County, and they've backed off of that. Also in January, we lost another deputy prosecutor who went to the civil side. She went to go work at a law firm here in town. That spot we have been able to fill. So out of the 3 vacancies, we filled 1 of them. We've got another who interned with our office previously, who just finished law school out in Utah, that we're going to be talking to him about utilizing that program that you approved not too long ago when we had the meeting over at City Hall for certified legal interns to get started with the office while they're studying for and taking the bar and waiting for those bar results. So hopefully we're going to be able to, when he's ready to come back home, snag him into the office. But other than that, we have not received an applicant in at least 3 months.
Just keep handing out those puppies. Like Marion County handed him a puppy and then he couldn't let it go. So
Right,
give
right,
Give him the,
yeah.
give the internship a puppy.
And as a refresher for us, because I don't remember the dollar amount, what is the comparative price that we're able to when you advertise?
Yeah.
How did you advertise?
Yeah. So there was a point in time when all of our deputy prosecutors made the exact same amount in Vigo County. Because at the time, there was a dramatic difference in responsibilities between the higher level felonies and the lower level misdemeanor and low level felony prosecutors. We worked with the council at that time to increase or to distribute off of a base salary additional percentage increases based on the deputy prosecutor's responsibilities and experience. So right now, the base salary for the deputy prosecutor positions is right around $67,000, and it can go up to around $74,000 if I'm remembering, 74.7, so maybe closer to 75.
It's up to like 14% more that
Right.
it can go to.
Right, so it's about 67 to 75 range, depending on experience, which is better than some. Obviously, there's some very wealthy counties out there that we're competing with that, I mean, we understand that with the system that we have involving our public defenders and their salaries being tied to the highest paid deputy prosecutor salary. Even a small increase for the deputy prosecutors involves a lot of overall money for the county, and so we continue to try and work within that system and knowing the challenges that presents for you. Again, we're not the only county experiencing that type of thing across the state, so I do know that both the Public Defenders Council and the Prosecuting Attorneys Council over in Indianapolis are trying to work with the legislature to get additional monies, either paid deputy prosecutor positions or additional funding coming back to the counties to help supplement the salaries for both public defenders and prosecutors. And while there was no budget session this time, I believe next year when they do or whenever they do the next budget session, that's going to be a real push.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I've said it many times. I appreciate you guys' work on this kind of thing. I would not want this job for anything. So, thank you very much. Stay dry and
Thank you.
stay cool. And I'm taking my water.
You almost always leave it. I was like, Rob, I've got your bottle. You need to start bringing disposable. At least to these meetings. Clerk's up next, but they're not here.
Yeah, it was getting ready to pour, it looked like.
I think it already is.
It was funky color when I came out.
So it's you.
Yeah.
We need to get you out there more often then. Were you sending me a signal? Okay, just checking. Cause I didn't know what it was. Yeah, I was like, oh, she's trying to tell me. Is 2023 a non-election year? No, that's city. City, 2023 is city, then the county. So 2025 is non-election. You might be in the wrong spot. You need new friends. If you go to the election budget, which maybe they can explain this, but I'm not sure what they did. Yeah, it's right after the clerk. Yeah. Well, it's not, I guess it's not right behind, but it's pretty close. Yeah, it's a different department within there, but if you look at their election services and their equipment new, they've like I don't know why they've changed where they're putting things or something, but yeah, so if you look at 36160, it dropped by 76,000 or whatever, which, oh, it's like, oh, that looks good, but then when you get to equipment new, it went up by 143,000. So it's not a wash, so I'm not really sure what's going on. My yard's telling me we really need it. My grass is burnt up. Yep, we're waiting on you. Podium. I hope it works or Karen's gonna be
So
yelling at
sorry.
you.
Oh, man. Craziness. You guys don't have no rain out there.
She was checking for batteries.
It's improved. It used to be worse. It used to be a bigger lake.
Okay,
All right, you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you.
Go ahead.
We're gonna start with the clerk budget within county general.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's election board, sorry. Okay, we didn't really change a whole lot, on the circuit court, county clerk, budget. We did take I think we took 10, well, I don't remember.
Took 4,000 out of contractual services
Okay,
and increased your copy machine by 10.
right. We,
But you transferred 10 out in 2022.
right. And that was in contractual services, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we go. What's the other?
While we were talking about,
Yeah.
you're talking about contractual services. On this chart, it shows, 14,000 in 2022 to 20,000, so it's an increase of 6,000.
6,000.
But
A couple.
No, it's 24,000. Look at the adopted column.
Oh, the adopted one, okay.
Because that was, they transferred 14 out, and that's how they got to 14,000 for the amended. That's what it looks like, because 10,000 went to copy machine rental.
Well, we switched the way that things were being paid. Some things were paid out of contractual, and then some things were paid out of professional services. So we tried to combine the ones that we knew were gonna be paid out of contractual services, and we felt like the copy machine is a contractual service. So we are trying to get more in line with the auditor's office on, the way things are being paid and out of what, line item that they're getting paid out of. So I think when we put these together, we, let's see here. Contractual services, yeah, was 24,000 in 22, and we transferred 10 out to copy machines, so that, because we were paying the copy machines, instead of being paid out of copy machines, it was being paid out of contractual services. So to get in line with all of that, that's why we did that.
Well, do you have an increase in your
We
copy
are,
machine and contractual service? Because there's a net increase of 6,000.
we
That's where I
are
was going
adding
with that.
another color copy machine for the absentee voters office. And that is, a little bit of an increase. Let's see. I didn't put my notes in here. But pretty much everything is the same. We didn't, I think there was a couple of things that we actually, decreased in price. I think, and I don't know if it's in the clerk's fund or another fund. Mileage, I think. Go back.
Mileage stayed the same.
Yeah, mileage stayed the same, repair equipment stayed the same. We did put in the copy machine rental, the dues stayed the same, we don't do any subscriptions. Travel expenses, we kept the same. Official meetings, we just took that up $100, just for, increases in, like the clerk fee, not fees, but the fees that they charge us to go to the conferences.
Do you
if they-
use the elected official?
We
fund?
do for Brad's and myself, but everybody else that goes gets paid out of, the clerk fund. Education, training, and counseling, we left it the same. I'm about to complete the NATO, or NACO, and so is Lorene Hoffman.
Are you
And
doing
I-
that this year?
Yep, we had it for this year, and then I want to put a couple more people through it next year, if possible. I have found it very interesting, the different perspectives that other people in management, leadership roles, I have found it really interesting and fulfilling, really, to get an idea what other people do, what other people, the conversations that you have. And these are people from all over, every spectrum, not just government, but several of them are from government as well. Gives you a really good idea on how to be a good leader, different things to do in leadership. So I would really like to send a couple more of our supervisors to the leadership training, if possible, because it is very valuable. Service agreements, I don't think service agreements went up.
Service agreements did not change.
Yeah, I didn't think they went up. So basically, everything, for the clerk line item stayed the same with the exception of contractual services. And I think we just inflated that just a little bit to, also take care of any increases that may come down the pipeline. But pretty much everything else is the same.
Did you include?
I did include payroll for Ruth, so that we could get that straightened out. I did include that on here as well. For our, lady that works in 4D court, to get her out of that, because the funds coming in there are not, we're not getting reimbursed, a whole lot in that area, whereas before we were. And ever since COVID, we just haven't been getting the reimbursements like we did in the past. So, I did include her salary. Now, I didn't include any other salaries because auditor's office takes care of that, so, I didn't, do that. We did, ask for, some new equipment. I don't know, what's that for? Let me see. And office furniture. But I think that was still the same as what it was in the last budget as well.
That's damn business what that was.
That's what I said. But we need it.
We need it like we need a hole in it.
No, we do. We need the
Water
rain.
everywhere. You
That's
don't
all
have any
right.
time at all to finish soaking.
It's
It's so
okay,
good in my shoes, my head, and my clothes.
right? Absolutely.
Look like a wet rag.
Yeah.
Damn wet rag.
Yeah, we did take office furniture down, 2,500, it was 7,500. So, we have been replacing, office chairs and desks as needed. Most of the desks and things in our office have been replaced, but we do still have a couple areas, in absentee voter where we need to replace, a couple of tables, desks, chairs, type of thing. But we did bring that down some.
Councilwoman Wilson?
Just a couple questions. On the legal services, $100, Judy, do you know if that's the same type of thing that?
That's what they always, they
Just to
always just
open
give
the
us
account.
$100.
Just to keep the account open?
We are at,
Well, it
we're
doesn't look
looking
like it was in there
at
ever.
general.
You've never had it before, that's why I'm questioning it.
What, legal services?
Yes.
We always have had legal services.
It's not on the chart, no. There's just $100
It's
budgeted
always
for it.
been on our,
always had
we've
legal
always
services.
had a legal services
Did you
$100.
put it in a different line?
No, it's always been under legal services.
Is that the same one that Rob had?
That's what I
Is
just
that
was
the,
wondering.
it's the wrong department.
Okay, well, maybe I just thought that, it's the regular clerk's budget, legal
Cause
services.
it was always in legal services.
Yeah, so we can take that off.
Okay,
I
It was
didn't,
an election.
and then
yeah.
can you?
And I think in the election budget, we asked for more than,
5,000 was
Yeah.
asked for.
Can you explain again what the
well,
professional?
she was asking about that because it's never been on there before, and I put legal services $100 for the clerk budget.
You might get a half an hour.
I'm sorry?
You might get a half an hour.
Yeah, exactly. We probably won't even get that for $100.
Yeah.
And could you explain to me again the $1,500 in professional services? I know you mentioned it, but I don't remember what you said that was.
Well, professional services
That
are,
was, again, not there before.
yeah, professional services, we have, like, if we have our carpets cleaned, that's a professional service that comes in and does that. And we usually try to do that once a year, because nobody else cleans our carpets. So ever since we've been in the clerk's office, we have always paid someone to come in and clean the carpets.
And Brenda, keep in mind, we also, when we had Servpro come in for COVID, we were told that that should be on us, and that shouldn't go to the commissioner.
So,
So when you get your carpets cleaned, building maintenance doesn't take care of
Nope.
that?
we've taken care of it
We've always done that.
every year since
Since I took
since
over.
Brad and I've been in there, we've paid for it.
Well, I mean, at least I would think they would pay for, they have a budget for that.
They never have any money in their budgets, what they tell us. That's what we always get told.
You laugh, but man, it's
We
that way all the
don't,
time.
that's what we
I mean,
get
it's
told.
insulting to us, because we're thinking the same thing.
Yep.
So we just
I mean,
take it.
that's why I was laughing,
Yeah,
'cause
we
I'm
just
like,
take
no
it out
money,
of our
okay.
own budget. We don't really have anything else that would need to come out of that. And the
So
last
did you
time we
pay
had
that out
it
of
cleaned was.
contractual in the past?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you.
We
is it-
may have taken it out of contractual in the past. We didn't have it done last year because of COVID. It is in dire need this year of getting it done. So if,
Or
we'll,
replaced.
yeah,
By
we
the way.
really need the carpet replaced,
Well,
but that's
That's
another.
definitely on the
That's
commissioners
another,
too.
yeah, that's another meeting. But, yeah, we always pay for that. And it's usually done on a Saturday, and we go in, open everything up, and they do our office, AV, bookkeeping, and it's somewhere around $1,100 usually. But with inflation and everything going up, you know, I wanted to make sure we had plenty to get that done.
On these?
If we went over,
No, we just did the general so far, that's it.
We have election board next.
I got a towel.
I'm sorry?
Election board next.
Okay. Let's see what we did last time.
It looks like you've kind of flip-flopped some things around, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, again, we have been being coached by the auditor's office how to pay things differently, so we may have switched which line items to pay out of. So, on which ones specifically?
Well, election, let's see, election services went down. Election services went down, equipment went up, and voting equipment went down. So election services went down by 76,000. And that was, in the 2022 notes, it was for RBM and no ink. For the 250, then it went down to 173,525.
Well, and we took that directly off of what,
That should have been RBM's quote, licenses and no ink.
right, but we separated it out. I mean, it's all in the quote from RBM and No Ink, and their quotes should be attached to your,
You guys know what RBM and no ink is?
okay, RBM is our election service that we use.
The election consulting are no ink for the people that keep your equal pads up to date, the maintenance and does the service. Those are the ones we just bought this year. And that's for all the stuff we have going on with the equal. So between the two, both equipment, they also have agreements that come with them. I think it's important that you know that.
RBM.
And
No ink.
No ink.
The difference is you have voting machines, and you have, when you come in to check in, that's no ink, those e-poll pads, and then those coordinate, talk to each other when they print out the ballot, each precinct, or wherever you vote at. But they're essentially, when I say no ink, they're iPads on steroids. They
So-
really are. I mean,
So when you had them in election services in 22 and you reduced your budget for 23,
We paid in 22 for 22 and 23.
so
That
this is
was
for
inclu-
24?
No. The licenses have to come out this year for both, for RBM and No Ink. But for their services, we had an additional year on No Ink from 22, for 22 and 23. So we already paid that. We don't need that money again. The
Okay, but-
173,525 is just for RBM.
correct.
Oh, it's for
It's not-
RBM only.
Yes, and that's how I have it listed there. And the licensing is for both RBM and No Ink.
What specifically does RBM do? I know is that just, because I know we have like the
I'm glad
election.
you asked.
The election site type stuff and things that you
Yes.
share, but,
They do all of our consulting, they do our coding, they do the programming, they will come in and they will set up, for lack of better words, pretty much the election as it starts, once we get the sites and we do where we've decided sites, they'll do the testing there, they'll do the testing of the equipment, they come in and.
so the software
Oh,
type
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they take care of everything. We have an actual consultant that comes and stays in our office, basically. We have an office room just for him
We book him
to
for a
work
certain
out
number of
of.
days.
Yeah, we pay for him. I think this election, he is booked for 84 days for 23.
Okay.
He's 84 days at
$15.95.
$95 a day.
Okay.
That's what they charge.
And then, I know, and is this separate from that? I know like your information that you put on the clerk's site for like elections, is that through RBM or is that something
He can-
completely
he, what
different?
Yes, for the most part. He will take our results
Uh-huh.
and we thumb drives them and they have to be changed from a secure to an unsecure so they can go on the website and be secured. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Because all the results as we load them, for example, this last election, the Michael County, the web server couldn't handle everybody checking on, obviously because of the referendum, right? However, he's the one that figured out how to override and use the cloud so people can start getting all their information.
Okay. Well, even prior to that, like, I'm talking about like the election stuff you guys put on your website, like where to
We
vote.
do
You
that.
do that?
We do
Okay.
that.
We do
So
that.
that's a separate
Right.
from RBM.
That's just our
That's-
staff.
Like the green and yellow,
Right.
like that I'm thinking of,
Right.
okay.
Well, hang on.
Yeah, we do.
Are you talking about our the PR campaign that we do.
I think it's probably more like where to vote and
Yeah,
that's
that's us.
It's like
Okay.
in greenish and yellow and, am I thinking right? Or am I thinking of the
It's on
library?
there, it's on there, and then they
Okay.
have like a link to other information, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, our staff does that. We
Quite
have,
honestly, Eva does most.
yeah. And she came in just to see how the process works today. She was interested, so. She's our administrative assistant, so she just kind of wanted to come and see how the process works. I'm sorry, what did you ask? That's last year's. This is
Brad.
this year's.
You had brought up a good point, and I forgot about it because you talked about it earlier. The website crashing,
Yes,
you guys not being able to upload stuff.
correct.
Is there a fix for that? Or who fixes that? Is that IT?
Yes.
RIT.
Yes. Our,
Is that in any of this?
when we, no, and when we start uploading information to county website. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm screaming at you when I hear myself. When we start uploading that information with the amount that's going to it, he figured out how to put it from the cloud so they could pull it, so it wouldn't be such a strain. But your question is who handles that? Your IT department would handle that. And we're not just behind when it comes to IT, we're light years behind compared to other counties. For example, I had what's called ePulse. That's part of the new software we bought when we got the machines, that I can pull up in real time and tell you which locations are busy, which aren't, which have a line, what's the average ETA waiting. We could have all that on a website where people can pull that up, but we don't have the capacity as a county for the IT department to be able to access or be able to do that.
The library does something similar.
Yeah, yes.
Right, right.
Right, but what we found with that, and we sent out people on the election board confirming, is that information isn't always accurate. From the time that we check in to the time you're done, the average time right now on this last election was 4 minutes. 4 minutes we're pushing people all the way through the process. Now, that's jaded, and that gives you a bad look, because in early voting, and nobody's there, they get right in, right out. So election day was probably more like 5.5, 8 minutes, depending on where you were at. But to your question, as far as the capacity to be able to do that in real time, if we had the bandwidth or the storage, we could put ePulse out there for the citizens, and honestly, all the lines you see that are here, there, and everywhere, they'll know within 8 blocks or 9 blocks, they can go somewhere else and vote, and there's no one. And you wanna talk about service and something that makes the county look good. I can't tell you how many texts I put out on election. I mean, some of you received my text, so, I mean, if we had a better, and I'm not knocking the guys in IT, they're working with what they got, I don't want that to come across, or we're knocking IT. If we had more, I guess, accessibility to more storage or more bandwidth, we could do all this. That answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
good. What I was
I
expressing
wasn't
was,
sure if that was, I didn't know what the fix was. I remember talking to you about it before. I didn't know if it was on your end or if it was on,
Every time we tried to upload, it crashed. And I can't crash an entire system. I mean, if the clerk's office is crashing the system, trying to upload results, and those, at that point, they're pages. They're you're not doing every vote, you're doing PDFs of the pages. But because people are trying to access it in real time, all the time, they can't keep up. And we saw that firsthand, especially this last election.
Is it because more people were interested in it? Because, I mean, granted, 2020 was a little different because just the whole, that week, but prior to that, people have been able to access it. Are people just more interested now, or is it just?
This is something that's been building since we started doing it on the website, since we did it on the website. And I think it hit a crescendo with the school referendum. I think more people were vested
Actively
in that
looking
than
at
what
it.
they usually are. We saw weird numbers. To that point, we saw some really weird numbers in your outlying areas that we may get 300 or 400 people vote there on election day, right? We were seeing 600, 500, 600 in some of these places. And you could tell that's referendum driven by some of the
Oh,
rural
yeah.
families. And so the answer is twofold, right? Two answers.
I have a quick question.
You had said that you sent out a lot of texts. Was it just people in your contacts, or was it some sort of mass?
I didn't do a mass text. I got hit all day with, hey, where can we go and vote right now that's not busy?
Well, what I'm wondering is that we have Nixle, that they can set up different groups, and you kind of put that out there, sign up for information about voting, and then you put a text out by that, and it hits everybody that signed up for election information. That may be something you want to
Might
talk
save
to.
you a little bit.
Yeah,
We've talked about that before, right? Yeah, aren't there different Nixle accounts?
yes, so
That we
you
already
could,
have.
you can set up, like you could set one up for elections, you could set one up for highway, you could set one up
Sheriff's
for,
Department and stuff.
Gotcha.
and
Push it.
so like they did the air show, when we had that, they had one for air show, so anybody that signed up for it, they could find out, oh, parking here, traffic's back this way, go that way. Just different information, so
Is that through the county?
it's through the county, and, the commissioners wanted to be in charge of that. So,
So let me preference my answer then to that. Yes, it could probably work, but there's gonna have to be flexibility in budgeting and stuff. I don't know what the cost. I don't
there's
know.
no cost
It's
to
gonna
it.
push there.
I don't think there's any
It's
cost.
already paid for, it's
So how do
free.
So we could just get an account, and every hour I can list the wait time at one of the locations.
Yes,
Yeah, from my understanding, I think we already have the account.
we
You just
have the
get-
account, and,
So we
You
would
get
just
access
have
to
to.
that account.
mm-hmm.
And then you
ask
can
the
have, the
commissioners.
clerk can have one.
Could that soul do real-time imaging?
I don't know about that. I don't,
Well, I mean, you could put links in it,
Oh, I see what you're saying, the imaging of the PDFs.
but you could do links. If it's in the cloud, you can still do a
But that
link.
just sends them to another, that makes it go one step further, right?
Well, I mean,
It's not too bad.
it's
though, I
not that
mean,
bad if you get a text and you click on the blue hyperlink and boom, you're there.
probably a little bit easier for them, to be honest with you.
Yes, that's it.
So, and this is something we have to ask the commissioners to use?
Yeah, this
Is
was
that
kind of a hot
correct?
mess a couple years ago.
Yeah.
We tried to
Hopefully it's big.
change it. We were told that they already had an account, so we just left everything the same. And I personally thought, the health department could have used it during COVID. I mean, that was kind of the intention of it, but it never really got off ground. I think the county's still paying for it
It's through,
I-
it's through 911,
through 911. I thought we had
but
like 7.
they kind of have the master account, and then there's sub-accounts that would do underneath that, and you could be,
You could have one, Board of Health could have one, EMA could have one, whoever.
Nixle,
Nixle.
N-I-X-L-E, yeah.
Is that the same?
Yes,
Push out.
Yeah. So your get, what was the most recent alert I got? I don't know if it was,
you get a lot of silver alerts and
Does that
amber
come through
alerts,
Nixle?
and
Is
silver
that-
alert was canceled. I get a lot of those from state police.
I think that
So
could
where
be.
this could really be beneficial, and I don't know if this is the way that this is set up, it's Nexel. We would need it primarily just election.
Yeah, absolutely. You could use it for, anybody that signs up, you could send out, here's the voting locations, poll. when
If
they're
I
open.
can, that's what I was just gonna say, is when we have a site that you guys have election, and we get a lot of people show up on because we're 1 week early, then people show up on Monday before election, and they're all mad because
Because
they
we
think
had
they
that
can
here
vote,
too.
even though we put signs up, and if you put, you guys have it on the website, but there again is, if the people are gonna take the time to look at it, or not.
You could just send a message out.
Yeah,
saying
yeah, but if
reminder.
that you could use this potentially, but and I give Vigo County Library some credit because it was at least something, and people were using it more. We're seeing they're using it more and more because they would say, oh, there's waiting at Meadows, and I don't know if that was correct or not. Then we'd see a whole bunch of people show up at ours because they thought Meadows had waiting times or the annex had waiting time, so then they would show up. But there was a lag, from the time that they'd see that, yeah.
So
I think you could definitely use it. I mean, I think it'd be something you want to start now because you need to start building up your following.
Sure.
Get
Like
people
just
signed
reminders
up
about
for it.
when to register or
Because
how
they'll
to
send out a text that says, here, if you want election information, sign up for it here.
So we can label it with our every vote. We've done a lot of you went on the council, but we've been working on PR from this from the very beginning, from the time I walked in the pool. And this is another great part of PR. We took on some major undertakings. We put, and just to give you a little background, we put bowling locations on pizza boxes at Domino's and Papa John's, and let's go in and put them in the bags at IGA and Basler's. We've done everything we can to make the community. So if we can use this, we'll use it with our label. And, I mean, we can do this, we can somehow figure out a way to work through the polls.
Oh, that would be fantastic,
Well,
yeah.
it cures every problem for everybody. We can make the call. And even if it's a hyperlink, we can call. It changes the day of election day. And quite honestly, the week before elections, we get a lot of calls too, especially in the afternoons, because everybody knows the mall and the annex are the two main ones. And you have a total of 7 or 8 neighbors there. So, I mean, it's something that's doable. I'm in, but we have to make sure they communicate. It's probably going to be cost involved. So, I would think that once you get hyperlink, it shouldn't cost anything, because we own the licensing to the e-polls
Yeah.
with the e-poll pads. And the reason I say that is we specifically wanted that licensing in our name. That's a whole different conversation. I don't want them to come in and say, hey, we want those results, we're gonna use these for some, college doctorate study. That's not fair. So basically, you're tapping into our resources that we paid for, and I wasn't. That's why we changed that. They want the, ask. Most of it's public information. Most all of it's public information. That's the way. Not the thing. There's always costs involved. It's backwards. Of course.
I would advise talking to both the commissioners and Vicky Oster in 911.
I can do that.
Start a conversation with them and see if you can get that off the ground. I think that it could be beneficial for, the purpose of getting information
Several of
out.
the department heads.
Yeah.
Actually.
And again, but I would also like to, when I want over, when I'm trying to advertise for
Oh,
different
yeah.
aspects.
That would
It's a good way to advertise, it's
Oh,
free.
it's amazing, especially if you get the following, for example, the other night I was at the state police, they had like 600,000. So it's not stuff here, it's,
Oh, yeah.
it flows.
Well, they have to subscribe. So like, they have to subscribe to different keywords. So
Yeah.
if they wanna know about parks, if parks had one, the elections had one, the health department, they have to subscribe to whichever ones they're interested in. So it would take a
So
push,
do we dictate what the label is for what they subscribe to?
yes.
Yeah, you would. Clerk, voting, whatever.
What's the phrase that you guys have?
Every vote counts.
No.
That's an awful
Every
long
vote
one.
count, yeah, whatever.
Every
I mean,
vote
you can
or
label
whatever
however
it
you
is,
want.
yeah. I can see it, I just
Yeah.
can't.
All right.
Yeah, and it's the green and yellow.
Yeah. I like the colors.
Yeah.
Did you, Councilwoman Wilson?
I just had a couple other questions. Did we talk about the copier, the $5,000 for the copier coming from another account into this, or, because it looks like you've expended $1,450 so far this year, and then you've got a request for $5,000, but it's not been in that line item before.
Because that's the same as the other,
That's what I thought,
the
it's coming
clerk.
from
Yeah,
the other
because instead of
person.
it coming out of professional services or contractual services, we want it to come out of copy machine rental.
Gotcha.
So you need to transfer something there now because you have no
Right.
appropriation
Right.
and
Yeah.
That's what we've done so far this year.
so at some point you're, pardon me?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, at some point you're gonna have to get them caught up.
Yeah, we
You're gonna-
did, I think we did that in the spring when we did the primary. I think that was actually when we were told that we should be paying it out of copy machine rental instead of contractual services or professional
I
accounts.
just
So
wanna
you
make sure
probably
that
need to do a
you're not
transfer.
asking for $5,000 that you
Right.
never asked for before.
Yeah.
It's making sense now
Just
that you're
coming out of a different account.
just putting it into different places that, as advised by the editor. Yeah. Right. That makes total sense.
Right, and it
To her
does,
credit, State
it
Board of
does,
Accounts wants it that way. I've had
right.
more than one conversation with them.
That's cool. Tell me about it. Yes, we're finding that in a lot of places.
And
Um,
not
what-
just our office, but
No, not just your office at all. Not, totally not just your office. And then under equipment new, you've got $143,690 in
right,
increase.
that,
in-
we are going to be, well, we want to purchase, new OVOs, if you will, the optical,
Please.
yeah.
Yes,
I
please.
always put the ballot in and walk out, that's real.
Okay.
And
When is the
ones
last
that-
time you got those?
10 years ago.
It's been that long?
And
I feel like we talked about it already.
They are really breaking down.
Did we talk about that last year, or maybe it was, we're gonna
I
need them?
think we were going to, yeah.
kept that on life support for so long. Those usually have about 4 or 5 electric cycles at most.
And I think
I think those are some of the equipment when they first went.
Because when you put the ballot in,
yeah, it's the,
feeds it to,
yeah,
it's not just like.
Is it okay to just call it a ballot machine for my notes?
yep.
Ballot box?
The
okay.
ones that
Thank you.
we're getting, they're actually called Freedom Vote Optical Scanners.
Okay.
So they're gonna be FVS, or, yeah, FOS.
But didn't we put that in 21?
No, we bought new,
Well, the
We-
note says
No, we bought
RBM
new-
new Freedom Vote machines.
we bought the machines, that's your
Oh.
machines that you vote on. This is the machine that you scan your vote into.
So it's not, the Freedom Vote's not the
Right,
same
no.
as the Freedom Vote you have for the
No.
scanner. Okay,
No.
got you.
It's totally different,
Yes,
yeah.
but we also did e-poll books as well.
Yeah, last year we got the Freedom Vote machines and for voting and the poll pads.
In all practicality, once this is done, we shouldn't need election equipment for at least,
2 years.
I was gonna say
5 or
4 to 6.
6.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say 4 to 6 soon. And the reason I say that is because technology,
Oh, changes so fast.
they're always chasing,
Yep.
whether you like it or not, they're chasing.
and these machines are
And the fact that
expensive,
these are-
they're not
10 years old.
anything cheap. But I did, Calissa, didn't I include the sheet for that as well?
It's not
From
included
RBM.
in,
It's not?
I don't think it's in,
Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
the decrease in the voting equipment of 51,400 is because you purchased the machines already, and so you're
Right.
decreasing that, so that
Right.
kind of offsets.
Exactly.
Okay,
and it looks like they're taking it from different accounts than what they did previously.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That's one of those things that a lot of people may fall out of their how to do it.
Right.
It gets a little fuzzy because if you have equipment new and you have voting equipment, and then there was election services, I think it had equipment in it at some point. So it just gets a little fuzzy. Which equipment's which?
Right.
Right.
Which all, to me, it all seems like it's voting equipment.
Yep.
Right. That
it's
would
good to have
make it
these
so
meetings so we
simple if we
clarify
could just
that.
do one line item that says voting equipment and leave it go at that, but,
Well, they
Can't do
can put
that.
it all in there, but I don't know if,
Well,
so
when
is
we've
the
done that
OVO only this,
when we did that early on, I was asked to separate it out.
or at least provide a list that,
Yep, well, and on here, for voting or new equipment and voting equipment software, I didn't put anything, but, it's listed on here for,
yeah, I'm just thinking if, as
Yeah.
long as it's not, like, if equipment new because you bought a printer or something, that's one
Oh,
thing. But
yeah,
if that was in there, you wouldn't wanna throw that in voting equipment, is
No.
what I'm saying.
no, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that's, like I said, it gets a little fuzzy in
Right.
there. There's a lot of different titles.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we included the election director under payroll salaries, and the election board salaries. The election board hasn't had an increase in pay for years, years and years and years and years and years.
And I was told, and this would, one of you guys could probably verify, but I was told that hasn't been raised.
It's been a long time,
And which one are you talking about?
When we were doing the budget, it was
Yeah.
going to, so.
yeah.
The
Well,
election
but
board members?
basically, that's
Yeah.
a stipend
Now, you're You're exactly right.
I mean,
For
it's
the stuff that those people put up with, and as much as they've been doing, I think if we're doing them at this circuit, it's hard to get people to do that anyway, 'cause it's a appointed position. You know, it's incredible.
It's a three member.
Well, but then,
No,
You've
there's,
Well, then,
Here, you got myself, and Deanna's my proxy. You have Republican proxy, Democrat proxy. So if the member that's appointed can't show up, the proxy can show up. And quite honestly, this is one of those things, we've got Gretchen Hutney on there now. I think people are just throwing people out right now, because this is some things that have happened.
and they're required to come to every board meeting and then be there all day on election day. And that's all the money they get. They don't get anything else.
There's a substantial increase in
Is that on payroll salaries? Is that the increase on that?
Yes.
Is that what we're looking at?
it's in payroll, yes.
And that includes the election director?
No, the election director's separate.
Well, but they put it in the payroll
That's what it says
salaries.
on here.
But it's put
It,
included.
it's included in the appropriation amount, the election director is, and the,
And
board.
It just, yeah, 40,000.
yeah, it's only a 40,000. Is the election director a $40,000 position?
Yes.
Yes.
So they
And then
didn't
the other
include,
10,000,
so you
So
make,
the election board member.
I've already changed pages, I moved on.
The election board and the election director.
and the election board is 10,000?
No, it's,
I don't think I have.
Because there's a $50,000 increase and the election director's 40,000. Whoops, and-
well, that's 40,000 plus
Oh, the 10%.
insurance, FICA, and
That's right,
PERF.
okay. That's right.
Who? Currently, Brad gets 5,000 a year.
But it's five.
It's,
I think
it's 2250, so it's 45.
4,500.
I get 1885 twice. And the two members that are voting members, they get 1,200 each time, so they get 24. And the other two get 1,400.
But if you look
the
at that, they've
proxies.
requested 340, and that includes the 40,000.
Right.
So the 300,000 would be
300,000 is just for poll
poll work.
workers.
But yeah, poll workers and probably your, it would include your
That
board
would-
members too.
Yeah, that would have to include that.
The 300,000 is what is already in there, which would be
Right.
the board members, the poll
290.
workers.
Not to include their raises.
No. No, it doesn't.
Not on here, it doesn't.
That's
What do you,
that's why we're
it
confused.
doesn't say anything about increasing the rates for that, but it does, it's included in that amount. I mean, what was existing, and I would assume it went up by 10%, so if they bumped it by 10%, get theirs.
We're asking that Brad's gets increased to 8,000, mine gets increased to 6,640. The two members, 4,000 each, and 2,000 each for the proxy members.
At that point, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's on,
So,
it's on this
to
page.
that point, think about you guys, this you're in, they're attending a meeting almost every month. Sometimes when it's close to election time, they're in 2 or 3, and we've got to deal with individuals, we've got to deal, I mean, when we certify the election.
There's a
I think it's
lot that
time.
goes into
Yeah,
that.
There's a whole lot that goes into it that you guys don't see unless you're up there, but I'd like to talk about the election director.
I do want to talk about that, but let me ask you one question about this, because I must have wrote down wrong numbers. Increase to $8,000, 6640, and then is the 4,000, then 2,000 twice a year?
Yes.
So it's-
No, that's 2,000 of the, I'm sorry, it's 4,000 total.
4,000 total.
And 8,000
For the
total
whole
and
year.
6640 total.
Right, this is for the, and
Because
the
it
whole
was
year.
4,500.
So John gets 4,000, Randy gets 4,000, Jared, Gretchen,
All right,
Ann
I
get
get it.
2,000, but they get half and half.
Right,
It is on
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I don't
it
know
is.
how
All
Calissa
right.
has hers,
All right.
but.
I see it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm looking
sure.
at the first two. I found it. Yeah,
And then the
it's
election
on there.
directions director salary.
If I turned the page, I would have seen it the first time. Use your air, sorry. All right.
I don't want to let a story in.
I tried to be as descriptive as possible, because I knew this was gonna be an issue.
Let me, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I had no idea that it hadn't been raised in 27 years. That's crazy.
To that point, the fear is this, is, you know, those are political appointees, yada, yada, I get that, sometimes in the past, that's been patting somebody on the back, right? We've gotta start looking at that election, start getting scrutinized in different ways that we've never experienced. These elections are more polarizing and more energy charged, and people in this group, different age groups, and it's never been like this. And the scrutiny we're under and the amount of work that we do on the election board has went from, we'll meet 4 or 5 times a year to, there's a month, we meet 4 or 5 times a month. And if we have an issue, we have to call an emergency meeting. It's not uncommon for us to be there, we're not talking a couple hours. When we went with the jail up here,
Oh, sure.
and we have a lot of those
I guess,
marathon
I
meetings.
didn't remember that, but
And when we go
I
over the
watched it.
provisional ballots, and we go over stuff like that, we may be there. I mean, we start in the
Several
morning, we have to
hours.
have it certified by 4. Lots of times where we get broke this down hourly.
Do we know whether if it's comparable to other counties?
We are,
I mean, obviously, all the
Yeah.
counties.
research that all you want to, and we're still low.
Yeah.
And for some of the counties, they also get other benefits that we can't. That's, I don't think, right? I mean, but we've got to do something, it's honestly been 22 years. That's neglecting.
Well,
some-
Jerry, I think Jerry is the one that's been on the board the longest, and he's the one that said he's never had a raise since he's been there, which is 22 years.
This goes back to the work.
Oh, I know.
Because that was one of the questions I asked him, I said, have they ever, the entire time I was there, I've never heard.
Well, and like you said, especially in these times, especially, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
All right, let's move to, did you want to talk about the election director? We can briefly. Go ahead.
I didn't,
Go ahead.
we've asked for this in the prior. The reason we've asked for this is because we need one person that oversees that aspect, because there's so much to it. Whether it be these contracts, whether it be the poll worker training, whether it be how we do our inventory for our, each stop can come in and we can do what's called a risk limiting audit. Somebody needs to be held accountable for that. It can't be just, hey, you take care of this, you take care of this, you take care of that. When we developed the job description, it was last year, they said, well, that's your job. That is my job, to oversee the elections. But it's also my job to oversee the courts, it's also my job to oversee child support, my job is to oversee juvenile. And the election director position came about because we need someone that needs to be special, that needs to be specialized. Because I want them also to be able to look at the contracts. There's no reason why that person can't write grants. And quite honestly, I think we're missing out there. That needs to be someone that's probably well versed in both the communication as well as written communication. When we developed the job description for this, presented it to you, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but the state of Indiana, our job description, when they appointed their election director for the state of Indiana, when Connie Lawson left, Tom Sullivan took over. So we think we did something right there, but I think this is a step in the right direction. With all that said, nobody cares about any of that. What they care about is dollars and cents. And we have RBM that does a ton of this stuff, and we're paying $15.75 a day. I thought actually it was $1,700, so it's cheaper than what I thought. I don't know.
Well, we get a discount.
But this is a situation where in the future, and I'm not talking about next year, I'm talking about 2 or 3 years from now, there's no reason we need RBM for anything with the machine and the maintenance on the machine. That's correct, and coding. And we don't want anything to do with coding at the county level. Most states don't want anything to do cut that down to what, 67, 65, 67 next year, and even more in the future. And where you're gonna see your largest savings, just so you guys know, is gonna be on your internal election, presidential. And you're gonna ask, what's that savings look like? Well, I'm not being smart on it, but do the math, 50 and 75 a day, we can cut out 25 days. We more than pay for that position. And they say, well, the benefits cost this much. No, that's true. If you get a family with 4 people, and I get it, there's always that fluctuation, what's that look like? And we got rid of 4 of our part-time, we can't get part-time budget. So if we want to take the part-time budget and get rid of the part-time election, I'm okay with that. And I've been okay with that. But I also want you guys to have a clear understanding of what this is. I'm not big on expanding government oversight. That's not what I'm doing here. But what we are doing is we're regulating and overseeing elections in a more stringent and disciplined capacity. And to that point, this election director should also be able to, for lack of better words, have RLA pass risk limiting audit capacity. They should be able to do that within our department. They should also be able to voter registration. At some point, the way things are happening, voter registration falls in the clerk's office. It does in all the other counties in the state except 4, 5. And to be quite honest, that election director needs the oversight for that as well, because that's an integral part that's outside of our bailiwick that we can't control. And most of you have had private conversations with me when I say that there's a lot of things that we need to clean up, that we can do better. For the 6 years we've been in office, we've saved this county $422,000. And I think that there's still places that we can tighten things up and try to do that. This is one of those positions that I strongly feel not only is needed, but I think it's necessary. So, yeah.
You said next year, the 1575 times 84 days.
Is that what we had?
Is that next year or this year?
It's for 23,
And how many days does the election director save you? I think you said it, I just missed it.
25.
25.
I think.
Saves 25 days.
In the long term, it can absolutely save more than that. I think before I leave 2.5 years, I think 20, 25 days out of that. I don't think it's necessary for that to pay somebody to do something that we have a body to do. But keep in mind, even if we save, I don't know, 30%, 20%, 20%, that's a big number when you're talking about that kind of money. I mean, your calculator's smoking.
Councilwoman Dees? Councilman Thacker?
Lots of good information.
Thank you. You were talking about the savings would be about equivalent to the salary, but then when you also have to factor in and which you have it here as well as the benefits, so that's what we're looking at. And that 25-day savings, that would probably be, as you said, you would have to build up to that.
Staggered to it.
Yes, okay.
But here's the deal, I don't know what that stepping stone looks like, but I know that there's some things that we're doing, talking about with my staff only, without them there, that if we had the personnel, we could take on and again, it saves money long term. It won't save a whole lot of money during my term, clerk, but in the future, it should save this county a fortune.
Then the other part you talked about is you had the four part-times, but we gave those up for 2 full-time positions. Is that,
That was-
and I'm not, am I right on that, or is that, am I confused?
They gave 2 for 2.
We did do 4 part-time. We have 8.
Oh, okay,
We have 8 part-time positions.
Okay.
We currently only have 1 part-time person left working.
Right, and we've got 4
And
slots, or 3 slots.
3 slots available right
okay,
now.
of those. So did we get the 2
We did.
full-times
We did.
when we
We
got rid
hired
of the
2
first
more.
4 part-times? Okay, thank you.
Right. We did.
Sometimes we get what the intent is, but we just asked the prosecutor the same thing. We expanded that, and then they haven't been able to fill them, and so I just didn't know where
Yes.
we were.
Well, and this is a conversation that I've had with most
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not the only department that's dealing with that. The whole county, everybody right now is dealing with that. But quite honestly, the part-time help that we use, we spread out for elections, courts. I mean, we.
Yeah. I have,
Put them shop where you need, and you move around.
right, we have one position open right now, full-time position. I have 143 applicants. When I apply for a part-time position, I get 5 or 6. And they're not, you know, any valuable candidate. Yeah.
so if I
Or
can.
they're late.
Just,
or-
so right now you only are short one staffing short one person, other than the 3
Right.
part-times, the 1
Right.
full-time?
And we are interviewing right now to fill that
Okay.
position as well.
That was a follow-up I was just going to.
Your point about personnel, is one that I'm glad you brought up. It's something that we're all fighting. And I honestly think the election director, some of these jobs that we have as part of the person, that falls in their lap. That's something they should be responsible.
It would alleviate some overtime too. A lot of us work overtime. I mean, of course, Brad and I don't get anything extra other than our election board salary, but our staff that works hours and hours and hours of overtime, working election stuff. I mean, we're right now preparing for the fall election. We had another meeting today. We're having meetings every week now until the general. We've,
So,
okay.
so in anticipation of this election director position, we developed our election plan.
You need to get near,
Oh, sorry.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. Keep me honest here, all right? We've developed what we call the Election Bible, and it's a step-by-step, and it explains every aspect of the elections, whether we start with the budget, or the poll worker training, or our personnel training when we do off-site training. And the reason that I'm doing this, and I want it broken down, and I know this sounds bad, but I want it almost dummy-proof. When you walk in, okay, when we do this, we need to be prepared for this, this, and this. Who's responsible for that? Well, this person's responsible for A, this person's responsible for B, this person's responsible for C. When all that's done, we come back, and what we've been working on is this information booklet, kind of a how-to for elections, and it's coming together in amazing shape. But it goes towards that job description for the election director, that they're gonna be the ones that is responsible when we start going through what I call the election Bible to get to the end of it. And I'm driving my staff crazy, but I want it literally almost broken down to where it's, yeah, maybe, that's what they named it, and I'm around with that.
Because it is, I mean, and we want whoever comes in after us, which in it, we have a burden of our own. We want the people to follow us to be able to have a guide. So they can open the book and say, this is what we need to do first.
Some of the mistakes that I've made would not have happened if we'd had a little bit of guidance on things. And if anybody's made the mistakes, it's me. Not my staff and not my chief deputy, but it was me because honestly, I didn't know. And lots of times we were shooting as hard as we could, and we did our very best, and it didn't work out, and I'm the one that gets in the papers, and that's part of being the department head and running for election. That's on me. But I think we can improve things for the future of this community and this county by doing it right and having it set up right. We're even doing, I mean, you're gonna laugh, but we're even doing like a table of contents, just kind of like they do, where if you say you want election certification, that's on page 31. They go straight to page 31, and we include the IC code so that if there's any question, they can research the IC code as well. Yeah, what did you say? Councilwoman Wilson, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. With this ties into the RBM and the election director. So do you have a contract with RBM that would expire, or is it just an annual thing?
It's an annual, and
So that you've reduced your election services by 76,000 to 173,525, and that reflects only what you're paying to RBM.
correct.
So if you got this election director, that essentially would for the most part, go away, but not totally, because you still need him
Because
for,
we're still gonna need him to vote
okay.
and do services.
But pretty much the election director's salary would offset that. Okay, that makes sense. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Thies?
And I think you kind of alluded to it, that when, because of those part-time positions not filled, and election time will be pulled different ways. If we were to have the director position like this, does that then allow other people to focus then just on their court jobs or
To stay in their lane, that's correct. That's absolutely right.
some people kind of focusing more on that specialty
Hey,
area?
You guys are familiar with the term, we get in the weeds, we get set back because we get pulled for so many different things and we're juggling a lot of things. And this would take some of that off people's plates. Again, we're probably not gonna see a return for a year, maybe two. You're gonna see something before I leave. But 3 or 4 years down the line, and I'm saying this, I don't know it, and I'm not educated enough to say it one way or the other, but, who's to say we don't send an election director, honestly, to a coding class? I don't think that's a good idea for the county to be doing that. I think we're getting into way too much civil liability and the questions. I would much rather keep the coding to an outside source. I think it's smarter, and I think it protects us as a county. However, we could code, people do it every day. I don't. I'm glad we pay somebody to do that, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, it's,
And then my other question is, are there other county, obviously there's counties bigger than us that have election type positions.
yes, and the state has one. We're not reinventing the wheel, yeah. Jay Phelps, that does it for the Secretary of State's office, is probably the most knowledgeable guy I know as far as elections. And he's still getting hit with it from time to time, and he's works for the Secretary of State. The Clerks Association asked for our job description. So this is not something that's gonna be foreign to other communities. I don't think little counties need it, and I'm not picking on the little guys, but I think the more populous areas where you're doing these types of things, you're dealing with more equipment, you're dealing with warehouses, you're dealing with contractors, and that type of thing. But I also think they need to be, I think there's grants out there that we miss, I'll just say that. I think they could also help with equipment grants, training grants, and we're huge on training in the office.
Just a follow-up on it. I mentioned it earlier about the prosecutors, and we created a position, and it has gone vacant. And from what I know of you, Brad, you probably already have a plan, and you probably already have somebody in mind.
I do.
And so I think everybody is already wondering, so if we create this position, you're going to be able to fill it, and then you're going to have to then fill another vacancy, is that
That's
correct?
correct, a clerk vacancy though.
Okay, and so, I'm not asking for a disclosure, I'm just wanting to see if you have a plan, that's all. That's all my question.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
All right. Gonna move to, what's the next one?
Clerk's perpetuation,
Yellow.
yellow. Yes.
We don't,
This is what we get reimbursed from the state, correct?
we have.
Well, and that needs to be brought to their attention as well.
And this is the one that,
You get your microphone.
sorry. This is the one that we need to add our records employee to this for salaries. This was another one early in the year that, right, we needed to change. He was being paid out of the general fund, so we're switching Ruth to the general fund and taking Leo and putting him in the perpetuation fund.
And the
I've-
reason being
Yeah,
for
and
that
this
is
is-
because Ruth was more Title 40,
Yes,
correct?
she was Title 4D.
And he deals
and-
with the records.
Yes, so he's perpetuate. He should
Yeah.
actually be being paid out of perpetuation
Yeah.
anyway. And his salary is up there, it's the 43,330. And then his FICA and PERF and insurance is all included. So that would be the only person being paid out of the perpetuation fund.
But
And
again,
then-
we're reimbursed for a lot of that.
Yeah, we are,
You guys should know that as well.
You have part-time in there as well, don't you?
but we don't really we only used a little bit this year because it was available to us to use. We were doing a special.
Explain what we're doing.
We're doing a special, records project, and we are digitizing all of our records. And so some of our employees were working on that, in between, working their regular jobs. So we paid them for their services for that out of the perpetuation
Oh, you're
fund.
paying them overtime?
Yeah,
Okay, so do you not need part-time in there?
we do not.
Okay.
But keep in mind, the people we have working down at the warehouse, during downtime, they're doing data entry into this. All the records books from years and years and years, they're not staying together. And they're hard to find, and you guys, I'm sure, are getting hit with this other places. So what we've done is we found a way to catalog it by name or date, and you punch in the name, and we've started, I think we're through how many books?
A bunch, I don't
8 or 9
remember.
already, where you punch in a name. Okay, they were married on 1874 on December 9th. It's incredible. I mean, but this is an undertaking for the entire county's history that we're putting into a data bank for all of our records.
And we don't typically have a lot of expenses out of the perpetuation fund. Just a little bit here and there, a few office supplies. The copy machine rental, obviously, again. Service agreements. I don't know what,
Do you know why they went up?
I want to share with you what some of those people down there have done, only because I think it speaks to the point of what we're doing here with the perpetuation with Leo, and I think the question is do we need these people or not? And I think that's a very valid question. I can hear it in the questions you're asking. I'm going to go through
go ahead.
this.
I'm sorry.
So in a week's time, these people dealt with 652 walk-ins. 652 telephone calls, 170 walk-ins, 6,610 scans. That's e-filings of 76, 17 marriage licenses, 0 certifications this week, and that is 1 week. And I have them give me stats every week. And these are the same people that are doing the data entry and that are doing the things for us. So to explain why I'm always talking about we're juggling a bunch of things, if we can tighten this up and clean this up, and I know this speaks to what we were talking about earlier, but this is all inclusive of what's going on in my office. And I wanted you guys to have a reflection of what 1 week looks like at the office.
And that's only one here.
Yeah, my only question is, what's your balance in this fund?
337,000 something. It's a little more than that.
337K approximately?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We weren't aware that we had that much in there until earlier this year. And to your point, yeah, there's,
Yeah.
I did not know we had $300,000 in that thing.
It's in the ledger. every
It
month.
is, and it is.
All right, we will.
Any other questions about that? I will tell you that when this was brought up earlier in the year and then they pulled the request, eventually, because if you're looking at, this is $101,000 budget, I cannot remember what they bring in on an annual basis, but you're only gonna be able to fund that person for a limited number of years before run out.
Right. But then we'll have.
But I
to
mean,
look
it's
at
like,
it.
I wanna say they're bringing in like maybe $40,000 a year and they have a $100,000 budget, or something to that effect.
Yeah, to that point,
So it's not sustainable.
no, and honestly, I don't expect it to be.
Right. Right.
Not that full-time employee.
We're always gonna have to have a records clerk.
So it's a temporary fix. I guess that's what I'm getting at. It's a temporary fix.
Unless we appropriate for that, if we ask for appropriation for payroll for that person,
Out of where?
the general fund.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would be a temporary fix to
Right.
put it here.
But for now, it's the fix that would fix it for at least 4 or 5 years, and then we can look at it again, or whoever's in our shoes can
And,
look at it again.
and to that point, you know, we're under the same, you're right, it's a temporary fix, but we don't know, to use a play out of the other book, is we don't know what Baker Tilly's gonna say, and we don't know how all this is gonna play out either. But I do know that the state law requires us to have a records clerk.
I'm not saying to eliminate that position.
No,
I'm just saying.
I
that it's
understand, but
only-
as far as sustainability, I understand that as well, but that's one of the costs of doing business, unfortunately.
Hit the nail on the head with the Baker Tilly. Gosh, they're hanging us up.
Well,
I looked at that timeline today, the information was supposed to be to you all, like, in March.
Tell me about it. Yes.
We're in July. These other folks up.
All right, let's move to new clerk incentive.
Yeah. And that one is,
That one should be pretty easy.
it's just, the professional services, that's it.
And that's a new account, so is that for,
That's for Dossett.
oh, Jeff
Because-
Dossett?
Yeah, because we were paying him out of the general fund, and then we were, if we don't have the salary out of that, we can pay Dossett
Yeah.
with the money that comes in for that fund.
Jeff Dossett Consulting, they do a cost allocation plan so that they go through and look at things, and if there's anything that can be reimbursed. So like if they've paid for things that's related to child support, the auditor's office has done things that, you know, requires their services to pay for child support bills or anything
Right.
like that, then we can get reimbursed for that. It goes back to the general fund.
Yeah. Yes.
They're out there finding costs
Yes.
they're
that are,
finding money for us that we wouldn't normally have.
yes.
I think last month's rate, and I'm not sure, but I think it's 21 or 22% on certain areas, and if we got another $200 or $300, depending on where it's at, we'll take it. I
Yeah.
think we only, am I wrong with that?
We only pay them $600 a month,
Right.
and unless he takes an increase, which he hasn't indicated that he's going to. I included 720, I included 10% for an increase just in case. But he has not indicated that he's gonna increase his rate.
Yeah, it's about there.
He's an amazing asset that is underutilized, quite honestly.
And I think several of the offices are using them too, aren't they? Yeah. That's the only thing we have on that budget.
That's one thing, is it?
Yes.
That's what it was.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you, I
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
it might start pouring down the minute you walk out the door.
EMA.
Troy is up next with E EMA.
Hello, how are you guys?
Sorry.
Wow.
I've got, they have copies of all this, right?
Should.
I was gonna say, I know that copy machine done some squirrely stuff to it this year. I had like 19 PDFs, I'm like, how's this work? And I'm trying to piece them all back together, and it's like, I know I have this thing all screwed up, and I'm gonna get up here and look like a goober.
All right.
Hi,
Go ahead.
how are you guys?
Good.
Hopefully, I won't take up much of your guys' time. On the budget, we had a couple docket asked for under personal services, overtime line item, and I guess that's been brought up at
For
least
several years.
10 years, I believe. Because one of the things, I hate talking about overtime because it directly relates to me, and I don't think it's fair for me to talk about it. But one of the things that they can do with that is if they declare a natural disaster or emergency declaration, and we can turn the money back in for reimbursement, we can get reimbursed back for that overtime. And I think that's the big reason she had kind of put that in there. With us being on call and not having overtime, you know, I take it off when I can down the road, but there's times that we just can't quite get that done. So that was the increase on that one. I think it does. I think that would come through EMPG, similar to our salaries.
I think it's if there's a natural
There-
disaster, it comes through the FEMA.
Yeah, FEMA would do the reimbursement. We
The
would have to go
FEMA
through all
would
the
do the
paperwork with FEMA.
reimbursement. Because it requires, a disaster. So like, if they were to get overtime for something that's not a natural disaster, you're not gonna get reimbursed for that.
Right,
But if a
Right.
tornado goes through and they declare it, or a flood or
right.
something.
It would have to be that, yes.
I've heard that spiel.
I know.
A long
I'm sure
time.
you're well versed on that spiel.
I know that one.
Is this natural disaster planned?
I wish I knew. It would make it so much easier.
Well, I mean, is that
It's when you're
part of
supposed,
the scheme? Somebody has to declare a national disaster?
did you put in your 3 to
Natural
5 year
disaster.
plan, the natural disaster?
When's that happening?
I did not. I left that out of the 3 to 5 year plan. I
At
wish
the end of the Maya calendar?
that would make it a whole lot easier.
2012.
When you get back from Alaska?
Okay.
All right. So that's what I had for that whole fund, and then the salaries, we're in the same boat as everybody else, you know, Baker Tilly, and you guys make the determination on all that. Office supplies, we looked at that and it seemed office supplies is okay for the year. We did ask for an increase in gasoline, just because, you know, it's been over $4 and now it's starting to go down, so I don't know, that last bill we had was like $700, I think, for gas, fuel, I was like, oh goodness. So we asked for an increase on that one. Janitorial, that one remained the same. Our emergency and drill, that one, we had that one remaining the same at 4,000. Training supplies, we had that one also remaining the same. And then on Fund 3, we asked for an increase with contractual services. The internet, we now pay for our own internet. The sheriff's office had covered that cost, and last year, we had came off of that, and IT had given me a number of, I think, $715 a month is what the internet was gonna be. And when we got the bill from Zal, which is the internet provider, it's $750 a month. So,
I think that might have been communication error.
yeah, there was a communication error somewhere. Could definitely have been on my end. I know sometimes I'm not the clearest, but there was a communication error somewhere. $750 a month
Instead of 715.
instead of $715.
I still question why IT doesn't pay it, but,
It came out of their budget until last year.
yeah, I know.
It came out of the sheriff or the IT budget?
IT, I'm sorry,
Okay.
I misspoke.
Yeah, I think,
The sheriff paid for our malware software. That came out of theirs, and now it comes out of ours. And that was $2,300 due, I think, in September.
So that's in contractual service?
Yes.
Is this because of the new codex? Is it in line with the price range?
I have no idea.
My guess is that their costs have went up and they don't wanna ask for more money, so there's,
They've looked through and said, where can we do it? Oh, hey, we got these guys. Let's,
and they make them
That's-
come big.
yeah, we've finally grown up. Yes.
why the IT doesn't cover this more?
Because they didn't want to. Because this was a discussion, I feel like, last budget, wasn't it?
Yes. This was on last budget. I don't know why they didn't do it. I'm currently getting the county IT bill, which I'm emailing to Joey whenever I get it in the mail, because they've sent it to me,
Oh, the whole bill?
the whole bill.
Oh, maybe you're supposed to pay that too.
Professional services, we had that one remain the same. Printing, we asked for an extra $50. due to paying for copies. There's an increase in the price per copy. Building repair, we have asked to remain the same. Repair equipment, we've asked to remain the same. Vehicle repair, asked to remain the same. Service agreements, the same. Travel expenses still at $750. Registration and fees remaining the same, and I have educational remain the same at 0. Okay. And then capital outlays, we've asked for the improved EOC to remain the same. On that one, we've just basically overhauled our EOC. There's new flooring, there's new desks, unless we have to replace the computers. Hopefully, next year, that's one we can just say we don't need as much, I would think. Because personally, I don't foresee anything barring, like I said, the computers going out. And I know the computers are older, I don't know how old they are. But they're the little, small, little brick computer things.
Yeah.
And there's 16 of them.
Well, they've got a whole command center there that,
And then in the vehicle line item, we've asked to replace the 2014 Ford Explorer. I don't know how we want to do this, especially with how they're doing vehicles now. Last year, you guys appropriated Doc a new command vehicle, and it is currently at Kentucky Motor Speedway waiting on a computer chip. And we ordered that one in December to try to get a jump on it since we haven't paid for it, so we're still waiting on that vehicle. I don't know the supply chains and how that's going, when we expect to have that, let alone if we were to do a new one now, when that would come through.
Carrying
Well,
that over from 2022 to 2023 because you haven't received it?
yeah,
Th-
they could
this-
encumber it.
Pardon me?
They could encumber it. If it goes to the end of the year and you still don't have it, you still haven't paid for it, you can encumber it into your
Yeah,
23.
encumber it and roll it over into the next year's budget and be able to do it that way.
This is it.
This is a replacement for the Explorer. So this is it would be EMA2, it would be Deputy Director Holbert's vehicle.
Oh, this is not the same one.
And,
I'm so sorry.
no, this is not the same one, no, I'm sorry.
We're waiting on the one from.
We're waiting on the one from last year.
I thought we appropriated that.
This would be the, yes. At least.
I think
Yes,
it
that was mine. When I hit the deer and fortunate into the deer and the Explorer.
You guys should all have vehicles.
Hmm?
You should all have vehicles.
Yeah.
How many do you have? Not
We-
you, departments, but
4.
4?
We have Doc's Explorer, or Expedition. We have 2019, or 2020 Ram. And then we have the 450, the 17, the F-450, the prime mover that was got on a grant.
It's not very fuel.
No, especially not with the price of diesel now. So that one, it stays unless we have to move a trailer, like our command trailer that we have down at the fairgrounds right now for the fair this coming week. That's mainly what that is used for, is to pull that or pull the hospital trailer, which is, I think, approximately 22,000 pounds. So on the Explorer, the replacement we were looking at was a Ford Ranger, just because maybe it'd be more fuel efficient. Being a smaller vehicle and still have the trucks that still have the capability to haul items. Not huge items, but at least it has a bed in it.
Is the 40,275 with it outfitted? Because you guys add
I believe that
lights
is
and-
outfitted on that. I know I had the quote in somewhere in here. bear with me.
Well, they have a whole,
And that Explorer may end up being, no, the Explorer was 4275. So that was the, yeah, that was the entire.
40,275.
We may be able to bring it in under quote. Like I said, that quote was basically done just online at the last second, and if I can get a hold of the state and get a
Oh, so you
QPA.
didn't use a QPA?
Right, I would think I could get it cheaper as a QPA if they'll do a QPA on that Ranger. I don't know if they will or not.
So that it doesn't include any outfit.
No. No, with the Explorer, I believe we can take a lot of the lights. I know we can take the radio. The only upfitting may be a center console. And then maybe different brackets for the, I believe it's called the inner edge lights, the lights in the front window. And then with equipment new, I've got that remaining at 1,000 and office machines remaining at 500.
So on, excuse me, Melissa, on this form, the, 460 vehicles, you got a decrease of 4,360?
If you look at what was requested for, or what was approved for 2022, which
For
was
fuel?
44,638, and in 2023, they only requested 40,275, so it would be a decrease in the budget of 4363. But as it looks misleading, because you would think they're not getting a vehicle, but
Yeah, that's
that
what I-
includes a vehicle, that's why I put that note on the side.
Yeah. So, okay.
So LEPC,
I was squirming sitting over here. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Wilson, you good?
I'm good.
you can grade him later.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank
Did
you
you
guys
wanna do
very much for your
anything on
time. and
LEPC?
Sorry.
LEPC?
I can do that. I can run through the LAPC real quick. I didn't bring it with me, but we can run through it real quick.
You
I
need-
believe the LAPC budget
It's
is
no change.
exactly the same as last
No
year's.
change.
It's no
Yeah.
change, but at least so you've addressed it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done with,
Okay. I'm just glad I got in the building.
well, I know.
I know I'm
Because-
running late and it was raining and everybody's driving slow and I couldn't get in the building. I'm like, this is my luck. I'm gonna come in and everybody's,
Then he waited 40 minutes.
some kind soul walked through here and let me in. She knew me. I didn't know her. I acted like I did though. But- Cell number?
Oh, it's gonna be, you don't really want, it's gonna be, you're being, if you wanna
Yeah,
go
when is
ahead.
our next meeting?
August 12th, July 12th at 3 PM, I believe.
July 12th, 3 PM, yep. We will recess this section of the Budget Committee meetings until July 12th at 3 PM.